Well, hello everybody. Welcome here or welcome back, whatever the case may be. I am getting ready today to go to do some blocking for a film project that I've written and am directing. I have the actors and the script supervisor and the cinematographer that we're all going to get together and we're going to figure out some of the shots, how we're going to light it, how the scenes are going to play out, and we're going to get all those notes done. It's a bit drawn from my theater days where we were, where you rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and then you put it on for the audience. Well, here we're going to do something similar where we're going to do some rehearsals before we film and then we're going to film it. And the filming is going to be, like audience, because ultimately when it gets edited, that will be the audience. So that is what we're doing today. It's a very chilly, gloomy day, so it's a good day to be inside getting things like that done. Now, that being said, I'm going to be wearing those clothes there in the back, not the browny, metallic-y, bronzy kind of colored outfit. I am going to be wearing, I guess it's more coppery than bronzy, but anyway. The necklace I'm going to be wearing today, if I can open this bag, I've worn, many times before, right? It's this one. Very 3D, very textural. There's the back, just in case anybody was wondering. Right? It's a costumey piece, but I like it very much, and I think that is going to go very well with what I'm wearing today. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to. Yeah, I had such a backlog of things that I was trying to edit, and some things that I had to start over again and whatnot. So I have been kind of trying to expedite the process. And that means that some of them are not going to have as many witticisms as I would try to include. Some things are not going to be as polished as I would like. Now, that being said too, I found out that because my computer has a bit of a resource issue when I am putting together and editing some of these things, that when I am putting together my footage and I'm playing it back, it seems slower than it is. So I go, oh, I better shorten that a little bit. That seems a little bit too long. And then after I have rendered it, when I watch it again, which I don't do right away all the time, sometimes I just upload them and that's it. What it is what it is. And I find out that those little bits actually go through in a blip. And they're rendered and I've done that, and I'm not going back and doing it all over again just to fix those bits. So that's the lessons I've learned, that sometimes I think things are taking a long time, words are going to be up on the screen for a long time and they're blink and you miss it. But this is the process. This is how one learns. Now I have just something playing on in the background here. I can't remember what it is right now. It's some jazz cafe, something visual, so I just mute the sound so that I can control it when we're done. But I found that the black screen wasn't as exciting as having anything at all on the screen, so that's what I'm doing now. That's a sign that I need to continue. I have a deadline. I have to be out of here by a certain time, and it's already been 5 minutes, unless I cut a bunch of this out, which I'm going to have to. So starting with my hydrants boost, which is, oh yes, still have some. It is really running low in there though. The dropper's barely getting into it. Oh, got a good glove there. Can I do all my face with that? Yes, I can. Nice and hydrating. Oh, I really can't stress how much I just like the way that feels on the face. Now, I wanted to do a dark and a light prime on my eyes, and I don't really have dark or light primer, but I do have my jumbo sticks, like my jumbo crayons, my NYX jumbo crayons. So I think I'm going to use that as my base. We'll find out what that does. I've used them before to a certain degree, and I do find them kind of heavy on my eyes. But being as I do want to use my FX pigments, by gosh, I would like to make sure that I have a dark and a light base on and see if I can get some distinction that way. Now, a sharpener, that's what I was looking for. So many times I will have a thought in my head, go to do it, I'm right there and go, now what was it I was doing? I don't know if it's old age, whether it's just who I am, that's, become exaggerated over the years. I don't know. But there we go. I just give it a little sharpening. The lid on. Black. So often I go to use these things and have to stop and pause and break the flow to prepare these things. So I'm going to see if having them ready to go in advance is helpful. I'm just going to put this on here. And smooth that along. I'm going to try and do it with the heat of my finger. Just going to melt that in a little bit. Heat of my finger. Melt that in a bit. And I'm not worrying too much about having too much of this on right now, I don't think. Well, maybe I'll put a little bit more than that. Because it does make a difference whether you have a light color under your shadow or a darker color under your shadow. And now time for the dark. That's not that dark. Right where I left it. So there's my light and dark base under here, and let's see what that gives us. That poor solo pigeon keeps coming back here to check for his family. Like it's literally a daily thing, several times a day. It's so tragic. Now, he could be here just trying to mate or trying to find another mate, but he's not doing a mating dance. There he comes here and it's and he's looking down, looking down to where the babies and that used to be. So I'm pretty sure You know, he's turning around, still doing the looking down thing. And soon he should take off, because usually that's all he does. He comes, he checks it out, he hangs out for a few minutes, and then he takes off again. Comes back and checks later. Well, he's hanging around quite a good long time today. But it is really quite sad to see. Now, I could be anthropomorphizing. I have been known to anthropomorphize animals a lot. Oh, there he goes. But that is how I can do my best to understand and be compassionate about things. I'm not a pigeon fan. When I was working at a salon on Bank Street, the second salon I worked on Bank Street, I think it was called Perfection. It's no longer there. It had very low ceilings. It was on the second floor above like a coffee shop and things on the corner. Beautiful windows around everywhere. But the ceiling, I couldn't stand up entirely tall. So I didn't work there very long because it just wasn't a healthy environment for my back. But as you're coming up the stairs, the windows started around the two sides of the building. And then, you know, in the staff room, we had a few windows back there, but these were all just like windows. That was the whole walls were windows. And above the sign, you could look in and you could see the pigeons that had been nesting there for ages. And, you know, so there was deceased baby pigeons there that had been trampled or neglected or something. There's, you know, it was gross. It was a mess, but nobody could get out there to clean it up or do anything with it. So they just kept coming and breeding and nesting. And it was kind of fun. Like you'd see the baby pigeons and you'd go from yellow to this mottled, unattractive looking thing, but were big, but still babies. But the adults would come back, and I was used to seeing birds where the mothers or fathers would come back with, you know, some food in their mouth, or they'd regurgitate things, and the babies would be there and their mouths would open, and they would gently put the food in the baby's mouth, and the babies would be there, and they'd be waiting for more, and they'd be like, you know? That's what I'm used to. Well, baby pigeons aren't that. The parents would come and the baby pigeons would shove their face right inside the thing's mouth, and it looked like they were trying to attack and choke them, and they're like, you know, it was really aggressive. And that was the day I stopped enjoying baby pigeons. I don't wish them any real harm, but I really don't want to have to see them going through those stages of development. I'm not fond of them that way. The visuals in my head are just too aggressive. But I digress, as usual. The weird life stories of the world. I was going to say of mine, but I certainly have nowhere near cornered the market on weird stories. I've got lots. Don't get me wrong. They will come up here and there periodically, unintentionally, because I don't really think of these things most of the time. But every once in a while, something pops in your head. Now, one could say it's triggered. For me, something that's triggering is something that's usually more of a negative context. None of these are that negative. None of these are hurtful to me. None of these are that bad. There are ones that are. But most of the things like that in my life that were, say, planted from my upbringing of various capacities by very many different people that don't mean to. I mean, I don't think anybody really sets out to put a landmine in somebody so that if they step on these things or they encounter these things, it goes off unexpectedly, explosively in their head. I don't know if that's how it is for other people. That's what it feels like to me. I'm going to tell a story of when I first went to see my parents in Bracebridge. They had moved there. It's a small community. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and they'd been there for quite a while. So that's setting that up. Well, we went out for lunch to this place that my parents really liked. And it was really nice. It was, not fancy, but it was a very nice, classy, middle-class person kind of place to go. And I distinctly, after saying something that I don't recall anymore because that wasn't the important part to me, a reaction and things that my dad said back to me that just made me feel incensed. And I responded to that. And Denis, who, we've been together a few years, he knew me enough, but, not as much as he does now and vice versa, pulled me aside and said, "What was that?" And I told him, I said, he had no business saying that to me when I said this. And he goes, "He never said a word." Now, if anybody else had told me that, I would have said, "Oh, well, you're just gaslighting me and whatnot." But I distinctly heard very specific derogatory comments coming because that was what I was accustomed to after certain things. And so because I expected it to be there, my brain put it in there. And because I trusted Denis, and I know he wouldn't have made that kind of thing up, I went, wow, I distinctly heard that. I was sure I heard that. My brain told me this was a factual thing that happened to me. And it wasn't. And that was eye-opening. So that changed me in a lot of ways. Now when things set me off that way, I might have my first reaction of, and after that, it becomes a more thoughtful process of, is that what was said? Is that my brain's interpretation based on other things in the past that have nothing to do with reality? I don't know. So I did learn from that what I needed to learn. And I think that was very, very important. And that was the beginning of me being able to go through and deactivate various landmines that were pre-programmed in me that I had no idea were there. So that's just my little theory on sometimes we hear things based on past experience that we don't expect to, or that we don't realize is really just in our heads, due to various factors of expectation. And then it does make sense. That is actually how I get good behavior out of dogs. My expectation is a dog is going to behave exactly the way you want them to. Now, or I should say not want, they will behave exactly the way you expect them to. I don't know if that applies to children. I haven't been able to test the theory enough on children, but it does apply to my observations to dogs. And it's not a cut and dry rules or anything, but if you expect them to misbehave, they will misbehave. If you expect them, and not, like I said, it's not that you want them, it's like you have to genuinely believe that they are going to behave in exactly the way you would prefer them to. And if that is your expectation, they tend to live up to your expectations. Conversely, if you are expecting them, your body does different things. Your calmness, your energy, the whatever, it radiates off you. If you're uncertain that the dog is going to behave, the dog is going to respond to the uncertainty, not anything else. So if you are certain that your dog is going to be good, if you're certain that your dog is going to misbehave and you act accordingly and you have it prepared, it will behave as it should in your prepared way. But if you expect it to make good choices, people go, you let your dog make choices? Yes. I train my dog to make good choices. I don't want a Stepford dog. I don't want a dog that, you snap your fingers and it does whatever trick. That's cool and all. I think that's wonderful. It's really great to see. But I want a dog that when you're not around will make a choice that you're likely to agree with. And ironically, I'm rarely away from the dogs long enough for them to have to make these choices. But it is interesting to me that is my theory, and it has always sort of been proven to be correct. I used to, when I was a little baby, well, not a little baby, but toddler, I really would have been a toddler, and we went to visit these friends of my parents, and they had this German Shepherd named Prince. And it was always chained in the backyard because it was aggressive and vicious, apparently. Unpredictably so. They had no idea how it would behave around, young children and whatnot. So out of caution and precaution, they decided to tell us children to stay away from the dog. And one thing from the time I was born, you don't tell me to stay away from a dog. I love dogs. And later on the adults came out, the owners of the dog and my parents, and saw me I was sitting there at the dog house, the dogs on the chain, sitting there right beside me, everything was fine. And I'm enjoying the dog's company and the dog's enjoying my company. And then people said, well, come away from the dog. And I'm like, no, why should I come away from the dog? The dog is wonderful. And they were all really nervous. And so they were trying to come and take me, get me away from the dog. The dog was going to have none of that. It was just, nobody could come near us to take me away from the dog. And of course, they're all really... Now, I was too young to realize that because of that, because I had done that and the dog wouldn't let them come and take me away from the dog, they put the dog down. Which just kills me. Even to this day, the dog would have been long gone from natural causes. It still bothers me. I don't like the fact that I was used as an excuse. I was used as an excuse for them to get rid of that dog. And I don't think that should have been the case. I really don't think that should have been the case. Oh, I didn't do eyebrows. See, I'm all out of order today. What have we got here? Oh, Lasso Espresso. Well, we're going. Maybe. I'm still going to do this one because that's the luck of the draw. But I think I'm going to go in and do the shadow brow first, because that's been effective for me lately, just so I can get a sort of a template shape going in there. And I got really quiet. But yeah, they used that incident as a reason to put the dog down. And I thought, the dog didn't do anything. The dog was fine with me. But the dog behaved the way the people expected it to, including myself. I expected to get along with the dog. The dog was fine. They expected to have problems with the dog, and the dog was a problem. I did not associate that, consciously when I was young, but that is the reality of it. And that has been sort of my experience with dogs my whole life. I just have this certain expectation of behavior all the time, and they live up to that expectation. And my expectations are always good ones. I expect they're going to behave. Now, when I am around children, my expectation is the opposite, and I see that they are often the opposite, and I'm wondering, based on my other theory of dogs, and dogs and young children are, very, very much the same at certain points with their behaviors and thought processes, I find. But it is It is just something that I have discovered over the course of my existence that tends to hold true more often than not. And it's not based on anything scientific. Or rational necessarily, but it does have a logic that makes sense to me, and my observations have proven that it is a distinct possibility that I am correct. That's funny. I just used my brow thing. Here I am thinking I had a lift and snatch in my hand. That's funny. And as I'm using it, it still seemed right. So we're going with the lift and snatch was now my eyeliner. I was wondering because my actual lift and snatch has like couple little hairs that have kind of separated and come off of there. And I was like, oh, what happened to those? That should have been my clue that this was not my eyeliner. Oh, that's funny. Now, I don't know what the timing is now. It's been like half an hour. I'm probably rapidly running out of time. Yeah, I have to leave like in 5 minutes and I'm nowhere near ready. Time to take one of these, and I'm not sure which one I want. I think I'm going to use this color, which I have not used yet. It's still got a cap on it, but it does look like there's color under there. So my friend she's already been into that color. She might have used a fair bit of this too. This is her kind of color. Yeah, I think I used this one, but that's okay. I am now testing them over a different base, so using the same ones is fine. This is a shimmer or sparkle or something. Another one that she has used. I think we'll go with a smaller brush and see if that gives me more control. I really have to get a move on. Now, I did not put my white coal liner under here. I'm just going to do that now. Ever so slightly. Blend that a little bit. I might put a contrasting color like a green in there. Why not? Why not? Ooh. I wouldn't normally put something like this with the others, but since the others are brown, because this could end up making other things muddy, but since this is brown, I have on here, if it muddies up the color, it's not necessarily going to be the end of the world. But yeah, that was a messy one. It was already open so much, which is probably why she tries to put the caps back on. I'm going to learn the hard way. I'm sure that is how I learn most things, is the hard way. Oops. But I do think I want to go and put a little bit more of that dark in here. And now that means I need my Lancome. Okay, now let's go in with, try to use sparingly. So this is the least amount I've put on of this. I'm trying to do that same technique that worked for me. And yeah, putting less, definitely key. some in there. I thought it was running out the other day, the way it did the whole sound. So I'm trying to do a really sort of quick version today, and I've spent 40 minutes. But a lot of that was me just talking at the beginning before I started doing anything. That's like foolish. It's very hard for me to work and talk at the same time. I'm getting better at some of it. Like when I'm doing certain things, I can talk like this. It doesn't seem to interrupt my flow the same way, or the concentration level doesn't change. See, if I'm talking, I can't fast forward through things. That's what I've discovered. If I just do this kind of tedious thing all quietly, I have this intense desire just to, speed through it with the fast forward. Because it's just a bunch of dead air space and me just going boom to my face. So that is why I do that way. Now, again, I'm just going to take what's here, which is probably not much. Just in case there's some, I don't want it to be too heavy today. And I'm just going to go in with bronzer maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, I'm going to go in with bronzer. Because I like it, and why not? And that will be, my equivalent of blush and that sort of thing. That way I don't overdo it today. Which is always famous last words for me. I'm just going to put it on sparingly. I'm not going to do too much today. I'm just going to have a light hand. And then it's like, this is my light hand. And it really is. This is a light hand for me compared to usual. And I'm okay with that. I think it actually, people are right. The light hand is actually a very good thing. So until the next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other.